Okay, so welcome to the second part of the first mover advantage when it comes to real estate. Just like any other business, the first set of people that move into that space always have a significant advantage over others. Look at the banking sector; they were the first set of guys that moved into that space. They had great and significant advantage. So also a whole lot of other fields too. When you move in for the very, very first time, there's always a significant advantage that you gain. Okay, so you can always see this in most businesses. Most businesses, the first movers sometimes are always the winners, and sometimes they are always the loser too. So we've looked at a whole lot of stuff. We looked at from 1 to 4, so we are going to be picking it up from 5 to 10, and that's where we are going to be stopping today in this part 2 of the first mover advantage. Okay, so we've talked about dominating by buying MRs and all of those things. So where we talked about creating value. So the value when it comes to real estate, value creation and value delivery is very, very important. There are areas that I was having this conversation a couple of days ago, and people were like, imagine if there's a particular location, let me even mention the name Ikorodu. At some point, Ikorodu looks like the next big thing in real estate. But all of a sudden, the value promised was not matching the value delivery. And it's totally derailed. What will I say? It totally derailed uh, 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 the value, how the growth of Ikorodu. Let me just put it that way. It derailed the growth of Ikorodu, and people just stopped moving into that area. I mean, security was promised. Ikorodu became the headquarters of cultism. Amenities were coming, promised. A lot of access roads were, shaky and in trouble in Ikorodu. Documentation were promised. Getting documents in Ikorodu now it becomes one of the most difficult things. So many government promises that people banked on until today to have not been achieved. And some of the other questions that I've gotten is that, so how do I know the area I need to move to? So there's something called artist to city development. Check some of my previous video. I've done a video on that. I'm very sure of that. See, this is where how to know where to move to. Okay, that is also very, very important. So the next thing we are looking at, which is number 5, is early access to amenities. So that is where there is amenities, right? So it can be an advantage. It can also be a disadvantage. So early access to amenities is also serious advantage, especially when you are the first person to move into a particular area. You will enjoy the amenities a lot. Okay, I remember when we moved to a place called Toriewekuru. We enjoyed early access to amenities twice. Number one, access to uninterrupted power supply, because there were not too many people living in that axis, and because of the factories and industries in that area, we had access to power supply. People were just enjoying light and all of those things. But by the time most real estate companies started moving towards that axis, those power supplies were cut off. So they were not enjoying uninterrupted power supply again. So those are some of the early access to amenities, right? And that's a good road too. When there's still a new site, the road networks are usually very smooth, good. Somewhere around the same Itorewe the road was initially good. It became spoiled, and it was fixed again. And so that's basically when it comes to early access to amenities, right? Then number 6 is that government levies are usually low and incentives are usually very, very high. Government incentives are usually very low at the beginning, and incentives are usually very high. So what do I mean by government incentives are usually very low? So what I mean basically is that um, the cost of documentation, levy. In fact, it might even there are places that government don't even go there, because basically there are little or no development in that axis. And by the time you move, you enjoy that too. But by the time the development is now moving, a lot of developers, individuals are moving towards that axis. Government will now see opportunities to earn revenue in those areas, and they're moving. So And most of the time, so there are even incentives. Government gives some incentives so that people will be able to move in a particular direction. And for those that move early are the ones that usually take advantage of such incentive. Okay. So the next is that there's less competition. Okay. You for a period of time you have the monopoly power. You have the monopoly power. Okay. The next is that you build strong brand presence in that axis. Strong brand presence. That's number 8. Your brand will be solid and be strong. In fact, when people mention those locations, it is your brand that is synonymous to it. I remember we have a project somewhere in Mowe. Before we moved to that axis, where the land is, where our project is called a particular name. It was named after a river close to the place. But as soon as we moved to that place, a lot of people started calling it almond, 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 almond. I mean, they indirectly start naming it a bus stop because it was a new site, developing site. So we started controlling the narrative with strong brand presence, right? Strong brand presence and recognition. Okay, so there's nothing they want to do in that axis right now that we don't get to be involved because we became a stakeholder in the area. They want to bring power. We are involved. Road construction, we are involved. Our presence there is quite strong. Okay. Number 9 is potential high return. I mean, that of course, if you are buying in, you are entering at a low, your price point when you are entering is very, very low. Your purchasing price point is very, very low when you are entering. And by the time your added value, you have the opportunity to control price, value, rent, and rates. Of course, for anybody that does return in that axis, it's going to be off the roof. I remember many years ago, um, about 10 years ago, a lot of people were calling us, come and buy Ekpe, come and buy Ekpe. But there was no access route to Ekpe. There was literally no light in the whole of Ekpe. Okay. But all of a sudden, the narrative changed. The narrative changed. Ekpe took a total U-turn and boom. But as at that time, a plot of land was going for as low as 20K, 30K, 40K, 50. I think the highest there was 70K, thereabout. Okay. So imagine buying like 30 acres, 50 acres at that point in time, right? At that point in time. Do you know what that will have been given right now? So those are the advantage of early mover. So the return is usually very, 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 very high. Then number 10 is you shape the development that comes to that area. So one of the advantage of early mover is that, for instance, there's a particular developer in this country that anywhere he enjoys and use this early mover advantage a lot. In fact, if he's not the first person to get there, he will turn out to be the largest landowner in that axis. Okay, so anytime, anywhere he move to, he will do a gigantic gatehouse, massive gatehouse. So because that is what he was doing, a whole lot of other company estate too were doing the same thing just to copy him. Even those that he met in the business were now copying him, right? Those are the advantage of moving early to a particular location. Okay, so you shape the development and everybody move after you. So if for instance now, okay, look at the Ongombo axis. A particular brand of real estate company came in and did phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, I think they stopped at phase 4 or so. And there's a particular prototype of house that they were building and people were buying, people were buying. And all of a sudden, all the other developers within that axis to started building and selling the same thing. Right? So it shaped the form of development that was coming into that place. Shape the form of development that was coming into that place. The form of infrastructure he put there, everybody were copying it. So it became a pace setter, narration controlling individual. So, and that is very, very important when it comes to real estate. So moving early into a place is always at advantage. You might need to do more work, but you need to check what will make your work to be productive is by you checking the fact that, okay, are all the indices that will make this place sell in place. That is very, very important. You need to check that. Are all the indices? So what are government plan? What are the moves government is making towards that axis? Or they have already started that by the time they finish, it will affect the end product in the future. So all these things are very, 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 very important. Okay, so my name still remains Okpe Oluwa Uni. So go and win. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot win. Okay, so play big so that you can win big. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye for now.